guys, so today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read in the month of January. This month I read 6 books. I had 1 star, 0 2 stars, 1 3 star, 3 4 stars, and then 1 5 star. So starting off the month, I read In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. This follows a girl named May, and her family go to this cabin every Christmas to celebrate with family friends. I'll be honest, I was not a huge fan of this book, and that short little synopsis is pretty much all I can really tell you about this book without spoilers or just plot points that were really not important to the book. There were so many plot holes and so many loose ends in this book. So in the first third of the book, May keeps going back in time. She keeps reliving the same cabin trip and is getting chances to do it over. And so starting off, you think that that is going to be a huge part of the book, that is the main point, is that she keeps reliving the same day and trying to figure out how to do it. But like I said, that happens for the first third of the book, and then it's just really not mentioned again, which really bothered me because that was the whole point of the first third of the book, was this whole going back in time and getting a chance to redo things. And once she does it how I guess the universe wants her to, it's just really never mentioned again. It is just, oh, that storyline's gone. I also was not a fan of the characters. I've said many times before, I am a character-driven reader. I love a good character. And I thought that May was so boring. I just didn't connect to her at all. She was just very bland. Like, she didn't really have any outstanding characteristics about her. And honestly, neither did anyone else. There are so many characters in this book because not only do you have May's family, but you also have all of their family friends and their families and their kids, and I didn't know who was who, and honestly it got to the point where I just didn't care. There's also this weird love triangle that kind of happens in this book. That's not really a spoiler, but it's just not important, and there were so many things like that in this book that were brought up and then never explained. Like, that was my main problem with this book. I gave it 1 star. It's so frustrating. And what's kind of funny is I picked this as my book of the month for December, and we thought that it got lost in the mail, and so book of the month was so kind and sent me another one, but then my other copy came, so I now have 2 copies of this awful book. So that's a thing. Next, I read Verity by Colleen Hoover. This story follows Lowen, who is an author that is taking over a well-known series written by Verity, who is unable to finish the series because a car accident actually caused her to be paralyzed, and she's also unable to speak. Since Lowen is taking over the series, she comes to Verity's house and she's staying for a little bit so she can go through her notes and read her other books and just kind of figure out where she was going with the series. While she is doing this, she comes across a manuscript, and this manuscript is all about Verity's life and her family, and it shares some dark secrets that Lowen does not think she is supposed to know. I actually read this for a secret TBR, and so I'm not going to go too far into my thoughts about this book, but I will say that I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. This book kept me on the edge of my seat. I really didn't know where it was going. I would recommend it if you have been interested in checking it out. Next, I read Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. I am rereading the Harry Potter series before I go to Universal in July, so I'm trying to read a book a month, and I'm actually vlogging my reread, which I've only done the first one. I will link it, but I've had a really fun time with it so far. I really love this book. Again, I did a video on it, so I'm not going to go into all of my thoughts on the book, but I just really love it. I think that this world is so wonderful, and I love being back in it. Next, I read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This follows a woman named Nora, and she is just really going through a hard time. She isn't talking to her brother anymore, and she lost her job and her cat died, and unfortunately she decided that she wanted to take her own life. However, instead of crossing over into the afterlife, she goes to the Midnight Library, where her old school librarian, Mrs. Elm, tells her that all of the books in the library are her potential lives that she can live, and she can choose to take back any regret that she has, and Mrs. Elm will show her the book that puts her in the world where that regret was not made, so she made a different decision. I explained that in the most confusing way possible. I gave this book 3 stars. It was very middle of the road for me. I had been seeing that this book was getting such high praise from so many people, and so I went into it kind of having some high expectations about it, and people were saying that it was really life-changing and it made them cry, and I just didn't get those emotions with this book. I was really interested in the book for about the first third, where we're hearing about Nora's regrets and seeing the lives that she's getting to live when she makes a different decision, and that was all really interesting to me. But then the story kind of just got redundant. I just didn't really care anymore. I also just didn't really connect to Nora's character. I didn't always fully understand her intentions or her motivations with things. I was really just confused what she was looking for, and I know that she just kind of wanted to be happy, but there were these lives where she was happy, and I didn't fully understand it. It was just, I was kind of confused sometimes. I don't know. And it could be because I just kind of got to the point where I wanted the story to be over and I wanted to see which lives she picked, because I was kind of sick of her going into these lives and then not choosing one because there was this much of the book left. It's not even a long book, but I just got really bored, honestly. I will say my favorite part of the book was probably the ending. I thought that it wrapped up really nicely, and I mean, it was kind of an ending I saw coming, but I still really liked it. I thought that it was a nice ending to this story, and I also really loved Mrs. Elm, the librarian. I thought she was just so sweet and sounded so cute, so I really liked her. But that was about it. I just found the story a little boring, so I'm sorry. But if you think that this book sounds at all remotely interesting to you, check it out, because I have heard so many positive reviews. People say this is like a life-changing book, and unfortunately I didn't get that, but I did recommend it to my friend the other day, so it's nothing I hated, it just wasn't really for me. Next, I read Invisible Girl by Lisa Jewell. This was the Page Turner Book Club's January pick. So in this story we follow 3 different point of views. We follow the point of view of a teenager named Sapphire. She had therapy with this man named Rowan, and once he releases her, she feels kind of abandoned by that, and she begins following him around and pretty much stalking him. We also follow Kate, who is a mother to 2 teenagers, and she's also the husband of Rowan, Sapphire's therapist. We also follow the point of view of Owen Pick, who is this 30-ish, I think, man who used to be a teacher, but he is currently on probation due to some sexual harassment allegations, and he becomes very involved in incel forums. He is also a suspect in Sapphire's missing case. He's also neighbors with Kate and her family, so everyone is kind of connected in the story. I really enjoyed this story. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and it kind of reminded me of the other Lisa Jewell book that I've read, which was The Family Upstairs. Not really the story of it, but just how it's written, and those are the only 2 Lisa Jewell books that I've read, but just the way that it was set up, they reminded me a lot of each other. So I read The Family Upstairs in December, and that also has 3 different point of views, and I also found it very, I don't know if I would call it fast-paced, but it left me wanting to know more. Like after a chapter, I would be very interested in starting the next one and wanting to get to the next thing. And having the different point of views, I really wanted to know what was going to happen with each character storyline. But that being said, since I was so invested in everything, I think in each one I was really expecting a bigger ending than it was, and it just felt like it was leading up to something big, and then the ending didn't really give me that. I mean, I still enjoyed the overall story. I gave it 4 stars, so I didn't dislike it or anything. Like, I think with her stories that I've read, the story itself has been pretty memorable, but how everything wraps up is kind of forgettable. I don't know if that makes sense. Not everything has to wrap up in a nice bow and be this happy ending. I mean, it can be a little, I don't know, a little darker. Finally, I read When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. This book follows the gentrification of a Brooklyn neighborhood. We get the point of view of Sydney, who has lived in this neighborhood her entire life, and she is just watching the places and the people that she loved basically disappear. And then we also get the point of view of Theo, who ends up buying the house across from Sydney with his wife. So Sydney decides that she wants to educate the people about the area and create her own tour, and Theo decides to come along with her and learn more about the neighborhood. And as they start researching it a little more, they kind of come across some things that are making them a little paranoid and kind of freaking them out about the town, and just weird things start happening, and this book is wild. So this book is also for a secret TBR that will be coming out later, and so I won't say too much about it, but like I said, it was a wild ride. I've never really read a book quite like it. Another thing I will say about it is I loved Sydney as a character. I thought she was so funny without really trying hard, if that makes any sense. Like, her humor was very just effortless, and I mean, this book talks about a pretty dark subject, and so having Sydney as that kind of humor in the book to kind of lighten things up was really funny to me. I don't know, I really liked her point of view a lot, and just how she would respond to things Theo was doing. It was just very funny. I also gave this book 4 stars. So those were all of the books that I read in the month of January. I also thought it would be fun to include some of the books that I went to read in February. I'm not calling this my TBR because I usually can read like 5 or 6 books in a month. I'm not a speed reader or anything, but these are 10 books that I would really be interested in reading in February. Lots of romance that I have just been putting off and wanting to read. So first, not a romance, but I really want to get to There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins. This is also for a secret TBR. Maybe you figured out what that TBR is now because I've mentioned the 3 books that are going to be in it. I also want to read Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. People said that it's kind of like a New Girl romance situation, kind of a little bit maybe, and so I am very excited about that. I love New Girl, I love Jess, love Nick, so if they are anything like that, I think I'll be sold. But I'm excited to give Christina Lauren another chance, and I hope that this one lives up to what I'm hoping it will be. I also want to read From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. I talked about this in my book haul. I've had this book for a while, and I just think that the romance ice skating thing will be great to read in February when it's cold. Also, I'm going to read Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling. This will be the second vlog that I do rereading the Harry Potter series. I also really want to read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I have just heard nothing but good things about this book, and I'm finally gonna get to it. And then I also recently downloaded The Wedding Date by Jasmine Gilroy onto my Kindle. And this isn't a book I heard too much about, but I was scrolling the romance section and it was available. So I'm hoping to get to it as well. It sounds fun. I am also wanting to finally get to Get a Life Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I just have heard so many good things about this book and I finally need to get to it. I also have a book that I recently hauled. It's not in my haul, but I bought it the other day, and that is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. I've heard so many good things about it and it sounds really cute, and I think it takes place in Alaska, maybe around Christmas time. I could be completely making that up. I also wanted to read another Colleen Hoover, one of her romances more specifically, because I did really enjoy Verity, even though the romance wasn't my favorite. I'm just curious to read more of hers, and so I think I want to read Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I was looking at different Colleen Hoover books, and that seems to be one that a lot of people talk about, so maybe I'll try it. Finally, I want to get to The Devil and the Dark Water by Stuart Turton, I think is how you say his name. This is the Page Turner Book Club pick for February, and I need to get better about participating in book clubs. I will read a book and then I just don't do it for a few months, and then I'll try to do it again, and I want to consistently try reading for a book club, so that is one of my goals for this year. Anyway, those are all of the books that I read in the month of January, as well as a lot of books that I want to get to in February. So thank you so much for watching, and if you did like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you are not subscribed already. And thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!